She who remembers every name, Alkebulan. Before maps, before borders, before ships carved wounds in the sea, she knew them. She knew them when there was still laughter in their mothers' throats. She knew them when their feet first pressed into the skin, soft and unsure. She knew them by name. Alkebulan was not just land, she was memory made soil. She was breath stretched into horizon. She was bone turned into mountain and blood turned into river. Every tree that grew was one of her thoughts made visible. Every river was one of her veins searching for her child. And she remembered every single one, not as numbers, not as shadows, but as names spoken with love. She remembered Ayo, whose first cry rose with the dawn wind. She remembered Zanele, who laughed before she walked. She remembered Stendai, who listened more than he spoke. She remembered Abina, who planted seeds even when skies withheld rain. She remembered them all. For thousands of years they walked her back freely. Their footsteps were her heartbeat. Their songs were her breath. They spoke to her and she answered. In rustling grass, in thunder, in the quiet strength of stone. They belonged to each other until the ships came. They came like sickness on the horizon. Their sails were pale and hungry. Their wood groaned with intentions that did not ask permission. Alkebulan felt it before anyone saw it. She felt the tearing, not of soil, but of belonging. Her children were taken with hands that did not know their names. They were pulled from her arms, their heels carving desperate lines into her skin. They cried out, not just in fear, but in confusion. Because they had never known separation, and Alkebulan cried out too. But her cry was not sound, it was tremor. Mountains shivered, rivers swelled, trees leaned towards the shores, their leaves trembling like fingers reaching. She tried to hold them, but ships do not listen to land. And so they were carried across waters, further than footsteps could follow. Yet Alkebulan did not forget. Not one name, not one voice, not one soul. Even as the ocean stretched between them, she felt them. She felt Kofi when his tears fell onto foreign soil. She felt Nandi when she sang to remember herself. She felt Malik when he placed his hand on his chest without knowing why. Each time one of her children whispered, "I feel something calling me," it was her. Each time they stood still and did not know why the wind made them emotional, it was her. Each time they dreamed of red earth they had never seen, it was her memory reaching to them. Because roots do not stop existing simply because they are buried elsewhere. Roots remember. Time passed. Generations rose and fell like tides. New languages wrapped themselves around old tongues. New names were given, some forced, some chosen. But Alkebulan remembered the first names, the true names. She whispered them constantly, not in human language, but in feeling. She whispered them through rhythm. That is why drums appear wherever her children went. In places of snow they found rhythm. In cities of stone they found rhythm. In lands where no one remembered her face, they still remembered her heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. It was her voice saying, "You are still mine." She whispered through movements too. That is why her children danced even when in sorrow. Their bodies remembered what their minds could not. Their feet struck the ground the same way their ancestors had struck her skin. With familiarity, with conversation. Each step was a greeting. Each step said, "I know you." And Alkebulan answered, even from across the sea. Centuries passed. Some of her children forgot her name, but she did not forget theirs. She watched them build lives in distant lands. She watched them survive what was meant to erase them. She watched them create beauty from fracture. She was proud, yet she waited, not with impatience, but with certainty. Because roots do not panic, they know reunion is inevitable. One day, a child stood in a crowded city, thousands of miles away. He did not know why he felt restless. He had food, he had shelter, he had everything he was told he needed. Yet something inside him felt incomplete. He placed his bare feet on the ground, and for that first time he listened. The concrete was silent, but beneath the silence, something ancient stirred. Not in the ground beneath him, but in himself, a memory older than his life. He did not hear words, he heard recognition. Far away, Alkebulan felt him. She spoke his name, not the name he had been given recently, the name she had given him when he first arrived in the world. And though he had never heard it before, his spirit recognized it instantly. He stood still, overcome by a feeling he could not explain. He was not alone. None of them ever had been. All across the world, the children began to feel it more strongly. Not as command, not as invitation. Some felt it as longing to visit lands they had never seen. Some felt it as sudden tears when hearing a certain song. Some felt it as pride they could not trace to a single event. It was Alkebulan calling. Not to pull them back physically, but to reconnect what had never truly been broken. She did not need them all to return with their bodies. She only needed them to remember with their spirits. Because distance is powerless against belonging. One by one, her children began to answer, through study, through story, through language, through return. Some came back and placed their feet on her soil for the first time, only to realize it was not the first time at all. She recognized them immediately. The wind wrapped around them like an embrace. The ground felt familiar beneath their feet. The air carried something that whispered, "Welcome home." Not as strangers, as remembered. But even those who never returned physically were never separated. Alkebulan reached them through dreams, through intuition, through unexplainable strength during moments they should have broken. She reminded them, "I know you. I have always known you. You have never been lost." Because Alkebulan did not measure belonging by proximity. She measured it by origin. And origin cannot be erased. Even now, she speaks every name, billions of them. Not once has she forgotten. When a child anywhere in the world wonders, "Do I belong somewhere?" she answers immediately, "Yes." When someone feels pride rise in their chest without knowing why, it is her. When someone hears a drum and feels their heart responds, it is her. When someone stands tall against impossible odds, it is her strength moving through them. She is patient. She is constant. She is remembering. And one day, when through journey, through story, and through spirit, every one of her children will hear her clearly. Not as land, not as place, but as mother. She who speaks every name, she does not search, she does not forget. She stands radiant, knowing exactly where each child lives, in Lagos, in Bahia, in London, in Johannesburg, in New York, in Kingston, in Paris. They were never scattered. They were planted, and planted things do not disappear. They grow, and she remembers every name. Remember who you are.